Welcome back to Killer Fun, where we explore the intersection of crime and entertainment every other week. Today, I have outtakes for you. I'm Christy, and my co-host Jackie and I are taking a little break over the summer. You know how it is. Summer gets busy when even though you think it should be more relaxing time, somehow it's not. Doesn't matter. We needed a little time off, but that does not mean that we don't have fresh new content for you, because we do whenever we go on a hiatus. I pull things that we have cut out of other episodes to share with you, whole discussions about particular aspects of a show or tangents that we went on or lots and lots of flubs. We make mistakes and we sure enough like to laugh at them. And so we're so glad that you're here with us today. This is our final in our hiatus episodes for this season. And today I have outtakes for you from White House Plumbers, Emily the Criminal, The Nurse, and Unstable. First up, White House Plumbers, the cleaners for the Nixon administration, the people who plugged the leaks. Whether those leaks really needed to be plugged or not is a matter for discussion, but we talked about all kinds of stuff, including Batman. We talk about the EOB in Washington. Should you drink milk for an ulcer? We have one of those times when Jackie tells me a story and she thinks it's really funny, and I wonder if it's not maybe something a little traumatic. We talk about a German scope and, of course, lots of flubs. Enjoy.
The other. You felt like this a long time ago. I think it was the Batman.
Okay.
And I think you kind of said at that time.
Oh, yeah.
I think it was the Batman.
That there was parts of it that were campy and silly and funny. And then there were parts of it that were just too entrenched in the seriousness of itself. Like it took itself so seriously.
Right.
And maybe I just really like the 1989 Batman the best.
Maybe. I'm all for vampire Batman myself, but
yes, exactly.
I have never liked a Batman movie.
Yeah.
Really? Batman was the first one I was like, I'll tolerate that. Because I can't stand dark movies. And Batman is nothing if not dark all the time. The sun never rises. Gotham apparently is at some North Pole city where the sun never rises, and it drives me crazy.
See, and maybe that's why I like the 1989 Batman, because it was a little brighter, a little funnier, a little sillier.
Coming out of the cartoon. I like the cartoon.
Right. Yeah, sure.
I like the cartoon.
Sure.
Yeah.
My favorite is when my kids were watching the cartoons. They were watching some cartoon. They were like, Batman has no pants on. Like they just forgot to put pants on him in a scene. And there he was, just in his underwear and just legs all aglow.
All legs. Now it's like Flintstones Batman.
Yeah. Very funny.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Because if they're on, well, never mind. I'm not gonna just shut me up.
Okay. So the EOB, the Executive Office Building, is real. It has a different-ish moniker now.
Okay.
So it's still called the EOB, but now it's the Eisenhower Executive Office Building.
Oh, yes. Okay.
It got renamed in 1999. Before that, it was the old Executive Office Building. And before that, about the time that this was happening, it would have been the Executive Office Building, the EOB.
Okay.
But before that, it was the State War and Navy Building.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. It was the world's largest office building with about 10 acres of interior space and 566 rooms. The Pentagon surpassed it as the world's largest office building in 1943. It has been around since the late 1800s.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
that's not something I ever toured when I was there. I did the White House tour thing.
Right. But it is considered White House offices.
Right.
So the vice president has a ceremonial office there. So if you see something that's in the office of the vice president, it would be in the EOB or the EEOB. Herbert Hoover had an office there after a fire. Dwight D. Eisenhower had the first televised presidential news conference in one of the rooms. And Richard Nixon preferred offices in the EOB over the Oval Office and only used it for ceremonial situations. He wanted to be in the EOB where all the action was.
Where all the action was. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Not me. No. I'd be like,
yeah. I need distance from that. I need plausible deniability.
I would be like, if it's worth speaking to me, you'll have to walk all the way over here. Mm-hmm. And if not, you won't. So it really just is a good filter.
There you go. Exactly. Don't worry, I'll never be there. It won't matter. So inevitably, no, not inevitably.
Okay.
Evidently.
That's a good one.
I've had a drink.
Your water?
No, I have water. Thanks.
To get the water.
Okay. On the unchartered jet home. Did I say uncharted?
You said unchartered.
Let me say that again.
Okay.
On the chartered jet home after this original surveillance mission, Hunt and Liddy are celebrating, and Hunt drinks milk for an ulcer.
Yeah, I remember that being a thing.
It was a thing, and it's probably not a great thing now.
It's not a great thing now. But I remember when I had maybe kind of an ulcer, like they thought that was what it was. My mom made me like milky rice.
Okay.
Right? Mm-hmm. So that it was like a creamed rice.
To like coat it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Ulcers are caused by the H. pylori bacteria or an overuse of NSAIDs, pain medication. So those are two things that the most common reasons for ulcers, and that the milk can coat the stomach, but it also causes you to produce more stomach acid. It doesn't really do anything, but he also drank alcohol with it. But so
I don't know.
Yeah, it's basically you can eat and drink anything when you have an ulcer as long as it doesn't cause you discomfort or pain. And you should definitely treat it with usually a round of antibiotics.
Especially if you have H. pylori.
Yes.
My son had H. pylori when he was in elementary school.
Oh, okay.
Complained of stomach pain for a long while and finally got to a place where they did an endoscopy. Oh. And this was comforting. The surgeon comes out and he says, I know what it is. I've never seen it outside of a textbook, but it's so textbook and a little worse that I know exactly what it is. But we'll culture it anyway. And you should have seen these pictures of our poor little, poor little boy's stomach. Yeah, it was. It was terrible. Yeah.
But you take a course of antibiotics.
It was pretty heavy. Yeah. We had to go.
Oh,
right. Like it was infusion, and then it was at home. I mean, it was like months.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. It's a whole thing. But definitely, if you have that, get that checked because it can, if untreated, lead to cancer.
Yeah. It can lead to cancer. It can lead to a rupture.
Yeah. A rupture.
And you don't want that.
None of that.
Trust me. You don't want
None of that.
Well, he said, I killed and I killed and I killed, and finally I could kill efficiently and without emotion or thought. I was satisfied when it came to my turn to go to war, I would be ready. I could kill as I could run like a machine.
I mean, you killed chickens.
Right.
Okay. Not the same thing.
Yeah.
On a side note, I had a professor... a teacher in high school who spent a summer working on a farm, and he was just old enough or young enough, whatever, to have video cameras at that time. I mean, like 8mm or 16mm kind of things. And so he has a video of the first time they let him try to behead a chicken, and there's video of him cutting the head off, and then the chicken running.
Oh, dear.
And then he had the video of him like
trying to catch the chicken.
Oh, it was so funny. It was so funny because he didn't do it right.
Right.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. Yeah. So the chicken still had the wherewithal to get away. Oh, jeez.
It is a very funny sight. I mean, it was funny to watch the chicken run without his head. It was also very funny to watch him like chase him like
chicken.
a bouncy ball, like can't catch the chicken.
Yeah.
This is very funny.
Yeah.
This is the same teacher who also pulled out a bazooka at some point.
Wow.
Yeah, he was military, and this was a different time and place.
Right.
But he had like a decommissioned bazooka that he would show off. So he had it in the closet, and remember those classrooms with like the little flimsy wall between?
Yep.
It's really just one big room, but you have the room divider.
Right.
The other class was laughing a lot, so he decided to play a prank. He got the bazooka out.
Oh my God. It wasn't even part of a lesson?
Well, not to them. I mean, we knew it was coming because we saw. I mean, he was like, I'm gonna get them." And so he was like, "Don't laugh." And so we're all trying to be quiet and not laugh. He puts the bazooka on his shoulder and he busts through the dividing wall with the bazooka. And it took about a beat before everybody died laughing. It was so funny. I mean, it's known that this bazooka was in his closet.
Okay.
Right? Like this wasn't the first time he's brandished the
Bazooka. Yeah.
But like he had told them to be quiet a couple of times. And so when he busted and said, "I said be quiet," it took about a beat and everybody lost it. It was very funny.
This is one of those times where you tell a story and you think it's really funny and somebody looks at you and goes, "Oh my gosh, that sounds traumatic."
It was not traumatic. Nobody felt like it was traumatic. Everybody knew he had a bazooka. It was not loaded. It was decommissioned.
Yeah.
He did use it to demonstrate certain things. But
Okay.
I mean, it was, I guess you had to be there. But trust me, it was hilarious.
Okay.
Yeah.
I believe you. Ordinary infantrymen with a with a rifle. So as the second break-in to Dr. Fielding's office is occurring, Liddy uses the German-made World War II era ZF-41 scope. It's real, and it's real bad. It was a telescopic sight that was designed for marksman use. It was trying to provide the ordinary infantrymen with a rifle capable of being used for sharpshooting and or sniping. But the snipers hated it because it stunk. It only had the capability of 1.5 times magnification in this particular scope, and that was insufficient. And that the eye relief in it is very deep. And so it didn't function very well in low light. So, yeah, he chose to kind of idolize this German thing.
That's so funny.
That was stinky.
It was stinky, which is odd. Usually the Germans nail it.
Right. Well, in World War II, not so much.
World War II. Yeah, not as much of the engineering feat, I suppose.
Yeah. Next up, Emily the criminal. Man, one mistake can really derail your life. And that's really what happened to Emily in the Sundance Darling indie movie. We talk about a case of mistaken identity, how a background check can be a requirement for applying for a job. We talk about how even if you have a hard time in your life, that doesn't mean that the system might not be set up to either benefit or harm you. Cars and credit cards. A DUI. Can you get a misdemeanor DUI? We lament over a particular phrase that people like to say. We revisit credit cards and the challenges of getting a job when you have a criminal record. And of course, flubs. Enjoy. Aubrey Plaza is Emily. So I realized I thought she was in a show called Undone, but that is a different actress who looks very, very much like Aubrey Plaza, who looks very much like Aubrey Plaza.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Who is it? Do you remember? I'd have to look that up. I don't know that show.
It's so good. You would love it.
Oh, would I?
Yeah.
Okay.
Rosa Salazar.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So this is Rosa Salazar.
Oh, interesting.
Rotoscoped in Undone.
Okay.
She looks exactly like Aubrey Plaza when she's rotoscoped like that.
Well, that is
They
interesting.
have similar voices. They have similar looks. They play similar types of characters in a lot of ways. So to me, I was very confused and thought that's who it was.
Oh, that's really funny.
Yeah. And it's not. But
It's
they're
not.
both wonderful actors.
Yeah.
And Undone is fantastic on Prime.
Okay, I'll have to check that out.
She got really like her big break was a romantic comedy. Funny Pete. No, it's not a romantic comedy. Her big.
Because Aubrey Plaza is...
She said in an interview with Roadside Attractions. No, not Roadside Attractions. That's the filming company. That's wrong.
You know what I realized is I thought when she when they started the interview, because I've been applying for jobs lately, you can't apply without clicking the button. Yes, you can do a background check.
Right.
Like the button doesn't show.
Oh, right.
Like if you're not willing to submit to the background check, you're not allowed to apply. Because online they can gray that shit out.
Right.
And it's a requirement, little asterisk. So I think my bias is that when I saw her in the interview, she must have given consent. And that's why he said, we don't, as typical rule, just pull it. We just don't pull it. Oh, okay. Oh, why pull it? I thought you said you don't do that. Right? Because that's why I was like, well, can he lie to her about that? Because if she gave consent as part of the normal, whatever, and then he says, yeah, we don't really pull it. Just tell me. And then she says what she says. And then he goes, well, I did pull it. Can he play that game?
I don't think so. But
interesting.
I think you give him, like, he told her he didn't pull it.
He told her he didn't.
Right.
But I guess my assumption was she must have checked the box because you can't even apply.
Right.
Of course, that's my bias though, because I literally don't know of jobs you can apply for that's not online.
Right.
Everything.
Not
anymore. So like, and everything requires the daggum little checkbox.
Yeah.
So I think I just assumed and didn't even think about the fact that like what he was actually saying was that like, we just don't do that. And she didn't give consent. And then he pulled it.
I think the blind spot, I think that's a blind spot with the filmmakers. Is they don't know that that's a thing that you have to do.
Okay. The consent. Oh.
Like, or not even the consent, or just that it's like required if you apply online. That hardly a...
That tracks with our previous thought process about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to be generous because I love it when people try to tell these stories and it's important and it's good. And I know I get super arrogant about this stuff, but I have to remember that like with my particular degree and being in ministry and being with people who have dealt with a lot of this systemic kind of...
Right.
And I've had the opportunity to study and learn more.
Sure.
So that's why it's not for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
In that way.
That's fair.
So I'm like really trying to keep my mind open.
Okay.
Even though it was just painfully slow.
It was slow in a lot of spots.
Okay. Wait. Hold on. I said, because Ken called. What you doing? I'm watching Emily the Criminal. Oh, I was like, yeah, you should watch this. He goes, oh, I did. Yeah. I was like, and what'd you think? Oh, so good.
Yeah, he loved it.
Say that.
I'm literally watching it, and I'm like, Ken's gonna like this movie.
Oh, he
Jackie's
did.
not so much.
He loved it. He watched it on the plane to Vegas when he had the conference.
Yeah,
that's funny.
Yeah. I hate it when we watch a movie that you like, I can tell Ken's gonna like it and you won't.
Yeah.
I hate that. I'd rather watch a movie that you like.
I know. But my judgy arrogance is probably more fun for the podcast.
This is true.
Because I'm always trying to make sure we have some sort of like banter, a little discussion back and forth.
Sure.
You know? And sometimes I'm less passionate about it than I am. Other times I'm just trying to do a show. And, oh, look, I have a different point of view. I can talk about whether or not I'm married to it or not.
Yeah.
But in this case, I'm married to it.
There we go.
It's really hard to admit that the system may be responsible for some of your success as well.
Yes. And I do have a very challenging time because I know a lot of people who are white and men who had it hard when they were kids.
Yes, me too.
And they've, worked very hard and done things well in their life and have overcome obstacles and have a really hard time seeing how they had any benefit from being white and male. Because it was hard for them. I'm like, yes, but it wasn't made harder because of your gender or the color of your skin or your sexual orientation or. There are a lot of ors out there that you didn't have to also navigate.
Right.
And therefore you have a little bit of privilege, even though it doesn't feel like you had an ounce of privilege when you were a child.
It's so hard to explain that sometimes privilege looks like just having to overcome the actual challenge in front of you instead of overcome the challenge times 5. You don't just have to, it's like in tennis, okay? You know how you have to win by 2 points?
Right.
Okay, that's overcoming the challenge, winning the game. If you are not privileged, you have to win by maybe 4 points.
Yeah.
Or maybe by 6 or by 8 or by 10, 12, and so on, depending on how many things have been stacked against you, you know? And so from that perspective, it's like, okay, but you don't understand. You had to win the game and it was so hard and you had such a challenge. What if you had to win it 3 times for every one challenge? That's privilege.
Right.
And it's weird because it doesn't feel like privilege to say, I got to overcome a challenge.
Yeah.
But hey, that's life.
Right. Well, I mean,
So
for real.
that's what we do all have in common is we all have the challenges.
Right.
And that's what's hard. But if you only have to come up against your challenge.
Right. And you don't have to overcome anything else first.
Yeah. And you don't have to beat it to death.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
Or you get up and you serve the tennis ball and then find out because you look or love or whatever a certain way, you're not allowed to serve that way.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to do that serve because, you know, of the color of your skin. You have to serve this way. But that way is not as good.
That way is not as good. Oh, and then also
too bad. That's
win by
your
4
rule.
points.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also win by 4 points.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that is so hard because you're like, it's not, we don't have to choose between having compassion for every individual, white male
Right.
or not,
Exactly.
for the challenges and what they've gone through. We don't have to choose between having compassion for that individual and everybody else, and also recognizing that the system is not really, you know, equitable.
Right.
All right.
For sure. For sure. I can say, look, you had it really hard. And despite the fact that you have in society a leg up, I can understand that you had to overcome a lot to get where you are. And I'm very happy for you and proud of you.
Yep.
And I'm sorry you had to go through those things.
Yep. And also,
and
also,
like in comedy, they always say,
And.
yes, and.
yes, and
Yes, and is your next, it works for systemic
yes
issues as well. Yes, and.
Oh man, I could go on about system. Well, good. We're going to go on about systemic stuff. I got a lot more to say.
Car dealers are going to limit you to $5,000 or $10,000, and you know anything north of $5,000, you can probably expect to pay the transaction fee.
And they may, if I recall, they may request to see the bank record showing that this is not debt.
Yeah.
So if I recall, there was something about, and so don't mark my words on this, but there was something about show that the, like, you know how you have to show like if you're writing a check or you have to prove that this is like the way they were going to call in the cashier's check.
Right.
It was the same deal. Okay.
Right.
You can use your credit card, but we have to make sure that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because
and I think a lot of that is
because otherwise
now.
that's a matter of it's too risky for them.
Right.
If you default,
right,
the credit card's coming after them. They're gonna just too bad.
Right.
So
yeah. All right. So Emily erroneously says that her issue that they would have found in the background check was a DUI.
Right.
So it wasn't a DUI that was the problem. It was that she spent some time in jail because of aggravated assault, which we'll talk more about that later. But I was like, she said it was a misdemeanor DUI. And I'm like, is there such a thing as a misdemeanor DUI? Because I thought all the signs that you see when you drive down Texas highways on any holiday weekend, they say there is no waiting for jail when it comes to a DUI.
Yes.
And I'm like, I will not drink and drive.
yes,
Which
they're very.
I still won't drink and drive, but For most people, the first DUI offense is a misdemeanor.
It's a misdemeanor.
Yes. Now, that depends. Circumstances, having a minor in the car, injuring or killing another person, or having another DUI.
Okay, right.
Those are things that would make it not a misdemeanor anymore.
Okay.
Which I didn't realize.
Well, they don't want you to know that.
Right. They don't want us to know that. That does not mean that you should drink and drive just because your first offense is likely to be a misdemeanor. It's still going to be a pain in your behind. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a hefty fine. It could result in some time in jail.
Yep.
It will go on your record. Call an Uber.
These days especially.
Yeah.
These days is so much easier, right? Because you don't have to call a taxi, which may or may not be a service in your area.
Right.
Or just find the least drunk person around you, which is kind of the joke she makes. Was that
she was like, I was less drunk than all the other people in the car, and I ran a stop sign, and nobody was hurt.
Right. And that was kind of like, I mean, gosh, I have compassion for that. But I mean, geez, these days, no. Now you get to call Ubers.
Right.
It's totally fine.
Right. Or stay there until you're sober.
Right. Or just stay there. Yeah. Just stay there. Time heals.
Mm-hmm.
We don't like it. There's this saying that people hotly debate. And I have hotly debated it within myself so many times. Like I'm on different sides of the fence every single time I say it.
Okay.
But I think it applies here. What happened to you was not your fault. It is your responsibility.
I hate it.
Don't you hate it?
I hate it.
Because there's something about it that just reminds you to say, okay, yes, that wasn't your fault. And you should put blame where blame is due on whatever came at you. Acknowledge the trials and the tribulations, the challenges, the evil doing, the problems, the system issues, all of that kind of stuff. Like it wasn't your fault because there's no shame in that part of it at all. But you don't lose your agency completely.
You still have to deal with the ramifications.
You still have to deal with it.
It's somebody else's fault, but you still have to do the work to fix it.
And the hardest thing in the world is to say, I get to fix it.
Oh.
And I hate that. There are days where I'm like, well, I got words for that.
So my kids-
And then there's other times where I'm like, okay, you're right. I get to. Like, that it wasn't my fault. That part wasn't my fault. I get to fix it. I get to have like a thought about this now. I get to take it back, like my power. Like this is where I stand. I don't know. It's a roller coaster, but I feel like it applies to the situation, right?
I totally agree. You bring that up, and I have a sidebar story.
Ooh.
So when my kids were little, they went to a little private school, and I volunteered there. And as part of the parent teacher organization support thing that they had there, the kids wore uniforms.
Right.
And so we had a uniform drive. So people who had uniforms that they didn't need anymore would donate them to this parent organization. And then we would have a sale. So families who were struggling or whatever could come and buy uniforms at a greatly reduced cost. People got the uniforms out of their house. It was good for everybody. We made a little bit of money. People got a good deal on the uniforms. People got rid of uniforms who didn't need them. It was a good...
It's sustainable. It's community. And also anybody who has to buy uniforms is struggling.
And I hated it.
Oh, did you really?
I hated it because people would donate clothes all year long, and we had a limited amount of storage space, and we'd have bags of nasty ass uniforms that the elementary school kids had worn.
Oh, ew.
They were clean generally.
Okay.
So they would come in, and I would say, "Oh, it's such a blessing," and I'd say it with this really unhappy heart. But I was trying to convince myself, and it was kind of like, it's not my fault that all these clothes are coming in, but it is my responsibility to organize them by size and put them out and have the sale. And I hated every minute of it. I hated it.
Yeah.
I loved getting a deal on the uniforms, and I hated it.
Hated having to do it.
I hated buying. So I feel like that is it is not my fault that this is happening, but it is my responsibility to do this nice thing. It's a huge blessing.
It's a blessing. Yeah.
Anyway.
That's a great story. Oh, it's a blessing. An opportunity to learn.
Oh, shut it.
Oh, there's so many. There's so many.
With the means to likely cause great bodily industry. Not industry. Great bodily industry. That's a very different podcast.
But I just right now saw all the marketing for it. Okay.
That credit card embossing machine.
Okay. This felt very analog for what was happening.
So it's unlikely to work very well now. Now that we've started having like chip cards and things, they're much harder to duplicate and they don't have this embossing thing. But they're still out there. You can buy one for like $170 on Amazon.
Oh, wow. How about that?
Yeah.
I mean, my card doesn't even have it embossed.
No, mine either. Not anymore.
My one card doesn't even have the number on it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Like, not to mention how people are using things like cash cards.
Right.
Like for the Cash App
Right.
and all that. I mean, it did feel a little analog for such a supposedly set and now time frame. Kind of felt, but I have to remember I'm techie.
Right.
My bias is I'm always kind of like on the cutting edge of whatever sort of is techie and new because I enjoy it. And so I forget that a lot of people aren't there because
I think there's still enough of those kinds of cards
yeah,
out there.
there's got to be.
Yeah.
There's got to be. It makes sense.
Just because they're comfortable.
It's
They
comfortable.
don't have to deal with it. So
It's less expensive.
Yeah.
A lot of credit cards are not your major credit cards the way you might think of them. And so there might be lots of smaller credit lines and medium-sized credit businesses and credit unions that are still making these kind of cards.
Right.
You know? Makes sense.
Yep.
Sometimes I want to be like, I mean, well, I'm just going to stop right there.
That's fine.
I might say something bad. I don't know.
The educator.
Educator.
It is really challenging to get a job with a criminal record.
Yes, it is.
Particularly in California. Con Law Office says that background checks will typically reveal misdemeanor or felony convictions. It is important to note that the disclosure of any conviction that is older than 7 years is forbidden in California. So if you've completed your sentence and it's been 7 years, basically it falls off. I mean, it's supposed to fall off.
It's a good thing.
Yes, I agree.
It's a good thing because I have personally, just been in the trenches with people struggling through this problem of trying to rebuild their lives.
Right.
And they can't.
Right.
And in today's job market, which I don't think really speaks to economics as much as it does the fact that there are so many people on the planet, FYI.
Right.
So I'm not making a statement about economics, but I'm just saying that like there are just so many applicants per job. Whether they're good applicants or not, whatever. The point being there's enough applicants that most employers can get away with not having to provide you all that paperwork about why you didn't get the job.
Right.
Because there's just enough to choose from that the stats are in their favor to say we went with a different, more qualified applicant or an applicant whose educational background or their aspirations align better. And as long as they say that, it's not about the federal or the
conviction.
criminal, the conviction. And so, and that's just because there's so many people applying for jobs.
Right.
And so they can lie and get away with it.
I mean,
or they can not lie because chances are they had enough applicants. That's probably true.
I mean, that's why I get so frustrated when these people are like behave like this. You've got enough people to choose from.
You do.
Just choose one.
Right.
You don't have to break the law.
You don't. But it's so hard because given two equal candidates,
right?
If one has the background that is not becoming,
right,
then all they have to say is we went with another applicant who was qualified.
Right.
They don't actually have to tell you, but it was discrimination.
Right. It was discrimination, but all I have to say is, well, in the interview, we felt like this person was a better fit for our team.
Yeah, because they didn't have a felony.
Right.
Right.
That's the quiet part.
That's the quiet part. And so they don't that. So instead of actually going through the work to say this position you were perfect for, we didn't choose you because. And now we're going to give you this paperwork to show you that it's not discriminatory, but that it's a real concern.
Right.
Or whatever.
Right.
Right? Oh, it's so hard. And I'm talking when I've talked to people and dealt with people, you might, if you're listening, you might assume that it's more on the lines of Emily the criminal. And I'm talking about far worse things.
Yeah.
But people can change.
Yeah.
I never underestimate the ability to people to change, and never underestimate how so severely people can get wrapped up in a world that is not becoming of who they want to be. And so I've sat next to people with far worse charges on their record than what we've discussed today. Far worse. But those individuals have been discriminated against so much, and they have persisted against so much persecution.
Well, a good example of people being able to change is there's an actor, Danny Trejo.
Oh,
he
yeah.
was Tortuga in Breaking Bad. He's been in tons of stuff, and he's a great actor, and he just wrote a cookbook, and super nice guy. And he will freely admit, he spent, I think, about a decade in prison, and he freely admits, I was not a good person before, but I am now.
Yeah. It's amazing. People really can change. But the problem is so many people who get there end up going, why bother?
Right.
And it's actually sad. Like, so many people with such good potential who really did change. And now they're back in that life for the same reason that Emily did in the movie.
Right.
Because it's the only thing they know. And now they're not that bad person. They're just trying to survive.
Right.
It's sad.
It is sad. Super sad. All of the sources that we use to inform our discussion here on Killer Fun Podcast can be found on our social media. Join us on Facebook at Killer Fun Podcast, exploring the intersection of crime and entertainment. You can find us on Twitter at Killer Fun Pod, or you can send us an email at killerfunpodcast@gmail.com, and I'd be happy to share a link to whatever information you're looking for. We love to hear from you. You might learn a little something too. All right, we're back with The Nurse, the homicidal Scandinavian nurse, a true story, but with some buy-in from victims. And really, what a hero this nurse was. Man, it was such an interesting, great show, such bravery. Of course, lots of flubs. We learn what an ombudsman is from Jackie, and we talk a little bit about CPR. Enjoy. So, Singer, that's not right. Single mom Pernilla.
Right. So your ombudsman is typically, now this exists everywhere in military hospitals for sure.
Okay.
But also most civilian hospitals have one.
Okay.
And it's the patient advocate.
Oh, okay.
Okay. The ombudsman. And so the patient advocate is somebody who deals with the complaints, the suspicions, the issues.
Okay.
And oftentimes that'll go straight to the top, and you'll have a hospital manager sitting at your door before you know it. Should you have actual concerns. Like, I had a nurse in an emergency room when I was there with my father become aggressive to me.
Oh, yes, I remember this.
Right? Because we were asking questions about what was next, what this next round of drawing blood was going to be, et cetera, et cetera. And we had not received any answers, which is the law in the U.S. You get to ask questions. You should know exactly what they're doing it for. And if you're not sure, you can ask, and they have to pause until they can tell you an answer. And the nurse was none too happy that I was pausing his schedule, right? Because he was trying to quick. I get it. Like, everything inside me from that perspective is like, man, I know I'm being so annoying. But dude, I can't let you just continue to take blood without explaining what's happening and what's happening next. And so we were kind about it, but he literally bucked up and stepped into my bubble. His shoes were less than an inch from my toes.
Oh,
right?
dear.
He was standing in my face and in a sort of a threatening manner was like, so you're not going to let me just do this job?
No.
Right? And I flat out said, I'm going to have to ask you to take 2 steps back because you're being aggressive and I'm asking questions that I'm allowed to do, and I'm allowed to ask. And not only that, it's our right by law. So he did not. He actually inched a little closer. And I asked him again, I'm going to ask you to take 2 steps back because you're being aggressive right now. And he actually tried it again. And about this moment, I was about ready to fight too. So I have bigger breasts than him. So when I stood up straight, it forced him to take 2 steps back. And yes, we put all of that on hold, and I went and called the patient advocate. In less than 5 minutes, the manager, the head of the hospital, was downstairs talking to me.
Oh, wow. Nice.
That nurse had a very different disposition when they came in.
Yeah, I bet so.
Yeah, and I don't think it was a sneeze muffin disposition.
No.
I honestly think for anybody who is out there, like, why would I do that? It's like complaining about your food and getting a sneeze muffin, right? Like, no. When I talked to the hospital manager, I explained, I understand he's under a lot of stress. I understand this is not what he wants to hear. I have no doubt that this is a good nurse that does good work, but he acted inappropriately in that situation, so he needs a break. So I did take that tact, but the hospital administrator was like, I will look into it. He is a good nurse. It's outside of his character. So there's got to be something else going on, and I'll find out.
Yeah.
So he had the mindset.
Yeah. And you had compassion.
And I had the mindset.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what happened, is that he was a good manager and he came in and,
Yeah. Hey, we have a complaint and that's unusual for you.
What's happening? Like, are you okay?
Yeah.
Like, are you okay?
Yeah.
I don't think he really was. We didn't see him for a long while.
Oh,
but
okay.
when we encountered him again,
it was much different.
It was clear, oh, you're yourself again. I don't know who that other person was.
Yeah. No.
But I also had no doubt that had there been more to the situation, that the hospital manager would have forbade him to come back to us.
Right. Yeah. I bet so. That's a good way to handle it. I'm proud of you.
Well, thank you. Well, you know
Good
what?
job.
You put my daddy in harm's way.
That's
you gonna
right.
Get the Southern girl.
Jackie's got hands on the hips. Yep.
I will tell you, my balls are actually bigger than yours. They just hang off my chest. We can delete that.
Okay. This is what happens when we drink and podcast. There's a whole lot of extenuating circumstances, but it's a relatively easy to learn procedure to possibly help somebody.
Yeah.
So a lot of people learn
if that's what they need.
Yeah.
There's nothing else to substitute.
Right.
So like if you don't know.
Or AEDs, automatic external defibrillators.
That's part of the CPR process.
Right. But a lot of public spaces tend to want you to not do CPR and use the AEDs instead.
You should.
Yeah.
But it's part of the process.
Right.
So for instance, as a first responder, I am if that were to happen in front of me and somebody were to collapse, I'm sort of like bound to respond.
Right.
Because I'm trained. The first step is you call their name, you pat their chest. If they don't respond, you start CPR and you call. You look at whoever's near you. One person, call 911.
Call 911 and come back to me.
Well, yeah, call 911. The other person that's near you, whoever it is, get an AED. So then you do CPR until the AED gets there, in which case you switch to AED and you follow. But the AED shocks and it'll tell you, continue CPR. You continue CPR.
Right.
Then you do it again and then it'll tell you CPR, continue CPR. And so you go through the shocks and the continue CPR until and unless paramedics arrive or the AED says heartbeat restored or they wake up, in which case you can roll them on the left side and wait for the paramedics.
Yeah.
So like it's part of the whole process. Like if you know CPR, especially if you just know chest compressions, start those until the AED arrives.
Yeah.
Right. Cool. And then follow instructions. Right. So yeah.
All right. So after a really rough night shift, after she was apprehended, Christina was diagnosed with histrionic personality disorder.
histrionic.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
You're right.
Okay, I just
You're
wanted
right.
to, but without
it's
having
not,
to like. Yeah.
Thank you. Let me start that again.
That's fine.
I'm getting there. Sorry, it's taking my brain a second.
That's fine.
All right, this is it. Our last set of outtakes from Rob Lowe star Unstable. This show is less crimey and more having to do with grief, but it was so enjoyable and handled so interestingly that we really, really wanted to cover it. Shockingly, Jackie didn't know who Fred Armisen was, so we talk about that for a while. Jackie tells us how she handles getting a tan in the Texas summer. We talk about how we should speak confidently, and of course, flubs. Enjoy. Only other person that we're going to chat about today is a very, very familiar face, almost as familiar as Rob Lowe, and that is Fred Armisen as Leslie the therapist.
Okay, really? That I don't really recognize him so much.
Oh, really?
No.
Because he was on Saturday Night Live, Portlandia. He was Uncle Fester in Wednesday.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I thought you might recognize Wednesday.
I didn't recognize him from that. I mean, I
Okay.
watched Wednesday, but I didn't really quite
Okay, so
recognize him.
Oh.
And I don't really remember him from Saturday Night Live.
Okay, you might
Like, probably not.
it was
A little before my time, probably.
Yeah, probably because I want to say
Yeah, I'm looking. I don't know.
I don't remember what years he was on Saturday Night Live, but maybe a little before your time.
Maybe.
Yeah, you're a true millennial.
Not really. I can't.
Because
You
you're
can't.
born in 80, right?
I was born in 80.
Yeah.
But Gen X. Well, it's debatable. It's debated.
Okay.
Because Gen X, some people say it's at 80. Right, that it changes to millennial.
Right.
Others say 84. It used to be 84, and then they backed it up.
Oh.
But like then they came up with that. We're considered a micro generation.
Oh, the Xennials.
Because
Yes.
we're so in between. We were raised by people in an environment that was so Gen X.
Right.
Like, but we came of age in a time where millennials were also coming up. So we're bookended. So
Yes.
like primarily by both generations.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I loved SNL, but like, what's his name? Chris Farley.
Oh,
That's my generation where I really got into SNL personally. Like Chris Farley and a lot of them. But like this guy, I don't really remember him enough from any clips or any skits that I can think of.
He was Prince on SNL.
Wow, okay.
It was very funny. It was like 2004.
Oh, I stopped watching it.
Yeah, you were done with it.
So
by
it wasn't
then.
before my time. It was
was
like
after.
after my time.
Right.
Because I got really bored with it for a while.
Well,
And-
to be fair, it got a little bit boring in the early aughts.
Yeah,
You know.
it really did.
Yeah.
So I'm so sorry. This guy, like, oh,
You totally missed him.
I totally missed him. And then the cast, like, I feel like it tripled.
Yeah.
And now it's like you don't get to know the characters or the characters as much because there's not enough time to repeat them.
Right.
Right? Like Old Church Lady and all these characters that I loved.
Yeah,
And
or the cheerleaders.
Oh, yes,
with Will Ferrell.
exactly.
Yes, like I'd love it if they'd bring like recurrence.
yeah.
Back
so
a
you have
little
like
more.
the news spot, right?
Right.
Like that's
That's
funny.
Yeah.
But the rest of them, I mean, it's okay.
right.
But yeah, so yeah, that it was after my time then.
Yeah. Okay.
For that. Yeah.
That's fair. Only is the situation at the biotech giant Dragon, obviously Ellis's company. God, I'm messed up today.
And it was a weird day because it was so hot, but the sun actually was behind a lot of clouds most of the day.
Right.
So it didn't feel as hot as actually they said it was. And I was
Yeah.
like, I don't know.
Yeah, it
so
was weird.
I definitely laid on my back, got my front side way better than my back side today.
Well,
but
yeah.
it's hard to lay on the float on my stomach and read.
I
can't.
Right.
It's taken me a lot to figure out how this works. And then it's a very inelegant progress.
Right.
To, like get on there and then make the next step. And then you got to fold the thing. And then I got to get my arms on it. And thank God that Kindle is waterproof because a little smidge of it got to go in the water.
Oh, no.
It's a whole thing. And then once I get there, I don't want to move. But then I'm so stiff trying to get off of it. That also is a very inelegant situation.
Oh, well, this is why you have a pool in your
It
backyard.
was fun. It was good.
Yep. Yeah, and I was waging war with hornets.
Oh, dang.
Yeah. So
That's not
actually,
fun.
no, I'm sorry, yellow jackets.
Okay. Ooh.
Because
Also, ugh.
not also bad because they decided to make a nest in a sprinkler system access point.
Dadgummit.
So we had to call the pest control people, which I don't love to do. I don't love to call them out for extra stuff. I know that they provide it, but I'm like, if I can move them myself and like encourage them to move on elsewhere. But the guy came out and he is like, oh no, we go, what do you say? We go nuclear on them because we just dropped the bomb on these because they're not really that good for the environment and they're mean.
Yeah, they're mean.
They have a gun and so they're just going to use it.
It's just,
That's what he told me. He's like, they have a gun and they know that, so they use it.
They use it.
And all they do is kill weaker bugs for the juveniles. They don't kill like pest bugs. And then when they're adults, they're vegetarians, so they're eating your plants.
Oh, that's so annoying.
I'm like, well, then you're no good at all. He's like, I'm like, they're no good at all. And he's like, they're really not. That's why I'm going to go put a whole bunch of poison on them. What?
As a Georgia Tech fan right now, I have so many thoughts.
Are the Yellow Jackets their rival?
No, that's their mascot.
Oh.
So they're like mean and yes, and they're fierce and they're not really good for much. and it's all hitting me right now. It's very funny. I love you, Yellow Jackets.
You can love the Yellow Jackets mascot.
I do, but I hate Yellow Jackets. They hurt like hell.
They do. Ugh. They do. They
do.
They hurt a lot.
They hurt so bad.
But so there was one that kept flying into my garage while we were in there. So I had the can of this the stuff, and I'm like,
I get you.
And I never did get him.
Oh man, they are fast.
They are fast.
So.
Well, and plus he would go spots where I'd be like, I can't spray the shoes full of poison.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's fine.
Yeah, that's funny. That's annoying.
Anyway.
Yeah. I call Bulwark all the freaking time.
Do you? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because it's free. If it's not done yet, they come right back out. And they have notes. They know where to go. Like, I call them all the time.
That's
but,
fine. Yeah.
They're battling spiders right now in my yard.
Yes. Good.
Still, they did a great job, but there's still one little area by the pool that it's close enough. I don't even know how he does it. He has to Spider-Man that because he has to. I'm thinking about this little spider. He has to jump from the pool to the fence, but he makes it. He literally Spider-Mans it all the way over, and then that's how he builds his little thing. And so it's close enough for him to jump. But they have sprayed and sprayed and sprayed and sprayed, So, but it takes about 2 weeks. They freak out and then they build a bunch of webs and then they should die. So I'm waiting.
Okay.
Yeah, the web was empty today, so
okay,
maybe so.
There you go.
Maybe so.
Okay. You're the only person I know who I would be like, yes, kill the spiders, because you don't like the spiders.
I don't like spiders.
I see, and I'm like. I'm a spider mover, but I don't have a problem with spiders because I don't hate them.
Yeah.
So they stay away.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
they come after me. I don't know what came first.
Yeah.
Who came after who first, but yeah, it's been a whole thing. I've learned how to speak to them kindly though. Right before I kill them.
Right.
So that I don't spread the grudge. I'm like, it's not personal, it's just business.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, sorry, man. It's not whatever. Brown widow, goodbye. Yeah, but I grew up getting spider bites all the time.
I know.
And I react quickly to them. Like, I got one at a gas station when my dad and I were driving back from Georgia, and I was pumping gas, and it happened, and I knew it immediately because within seconds, it swelled up and was itchy and had 2 little bumps on it, like right in the center. And I was like, Dad, look at this. And he was like, yep, there it is.
When was this?
I don't know. I guess maybe when I moved Dad back.
Okay.
Maybe.
Okay. So not that long ago.
Oh yeah, no. Oh, and this is like a quick trip. I mean,
I just don't even. Because I've literally never seen a spider at a gas station.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
You got bit by one because they were like,
They find me.
Look at her.
Yeah.
They
either hate me or I'm their queen, and I can't figure out which.
Maybe they hate you because you are the queen.
Yeah, I don't know.
They're all trying to assassinate you that they can take the crown. And you're like, where is my little teeny tiny tiara?
Yes. Like, then listen to me.
If I'm the queen, obey me and give me a tiara.
Exactly. Diamonds and obedience. That's where it lies. Okay?
Diamonds and obedience. Oh, that's what it means to be queen.
All right.
Okay. Sorry.
Now I'm going to start storing
I'm just trying to figure out, like...
Gosh, so many shows, like, make it so where, like, I don't know, they try to... what am I saying?
He says everything so confidently that people just believe him.
Yeah, when really he's just talking about an idea he had.
And
right?
I'm thinking maybe I just need to speak more confidently in my life sometimes.
Oh, girl. I get that.
I mean, maybe I just need to confidently speak out of my behind.
I mean, really, I'm actually amazed how often I end a sentence like with a period, but I inflect it as a question.
Oh man.
Often. It's like often. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe we need to.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I hate that when I talk sometimes it sounds like a question.
All the time.
I try really hard not to do it.
I'm more aware of it now. Mm-hmm. But I think some of it's cultural.
Yes.
And so I'm having to learn to get out of that because I don't think it's as relevant as it once was.
Mm-hmm. Some of it's our age.
Some of it's our age. Mm-hmm. Some of it's our gender.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot going on there.
But I think I just want to start speaking more confidently about things that I'm not as confident about. I'm just going to speak the truth into it.
Yeah. The problem is, the more you know, the less you know.
Well, exactly.
I find that the more that I know about something, the more apt I am to not speak confidently at all about it. Mm-hmm. And so it's kind of a weird paradox there. Mm-hmm.
Yes, but Ellis was smart and knew a lot.
He did.
And also spoke confidently.
There you go. Yep. We should do it more often.
Oh,
getting better at it. I think we're both getting better at that kind of thing.
I agree. Well, it comes with age.
It does.
Yeah.
And it's drove. No.
All right, that's it for our Outtakes episodes. We really hope that you enjoyed them. We so appreciate you tuning in. We know that you make a choice when you listen to us. We don't just come on the radio somewhere. You've chosen to spend time with us. And we really appreciate that. Tell a friend because it's so much more fun when you can listen with a friend. And next time, we're going to be talking about Cleo on Netflix. A former homicidal spy takes revenge after the fall of the Berlin Wall. We're really looking forward to it. This is the show that Jackie accidentally watched when she was supposed to watch The Nurse. So we know that she'll be up to speed, ready to go. And until next time, be safe, be kind, and wash your hands.
Da, da, da.